Hey everyone, welcome back to the StraboSpot channel. I'm Claire, and today we're going to be walking through micrographs, both reference and associated, and the various ways to locate and orient them. There are two types of micrographs, reference and associated. In this example, you can see the reference photomicrograph is the image of the entire thin section, and the associated photomicrographs are EDS maps of a particular grain, surrounding grains. They're located in this red box on the reference photomicrographs. And associated photomicrographs are placed on the reference photomicrograph on a specific location. So they're nested within the reference. The reference is the higher level, larger view, lower magnification, and associated is the higher magnification, specific location. Micrographs of maybe a grain or a feature or a certain interesting thing within your image that is contained within the reference photomicrograph area. So there are those are the two types of micrographs, and there are two ways to load those micrographs, both reference and associated. So you can add one at a time, add new reference micrograph, or batch import reference micrographs, which means import several at the same time. One at a time allows you to orient and scale each image as you upload. Batch importing allows you to bring all of the images into StraboMicro and then orient and scale them one at a time. I will walk you through both of those processes, the various ways that you can orient images for both types of micrographs. So once you have a reference photomicrograph in your project, you can add associated micrographs again one at a time or batch import several. First thing we're going to do is bring in one new reference micrograph. So first, select the file. Once you have your image, it will say the name, give you a quick preview of your image. You should denote what type of image it is. In this case, it's an optical microscopy image with cross-polarized light. Clicking Next, this is where you can add some specific metadata for your microscope in this case, if you'd like. This is for information regarding the sample preparation. There are three different ways to orient your micrographs. So you have an unoriented thin section. You can orient by trend and plunge of the edges or strike and dip of the surface, or you can include information on the fabric reference frame. There are three different ways to set the scale for your images. You can trace the scale bar if you have a scale bar present in your image. You can do a pixel conversion factor, entering the number of pixels per unit, or you can provide the height and width of the image, which are the physical dimensions of the entire image. In this case, we have a scale bar, so I'm going to choose the trace scale bar option. First thing I need to do is locate my scale bar on the image. I'm using my mouse pad to click and drag the image and zoom in and out till I can bring the scale bar to a large view. I'm currently on the pointer tool, which allows me to move the image around. Once I have the scale bar in view, I click the line tool, click, drag, and release the line tool to trace the scale bar. It calculates automatically the line length in pixels, and then I input the scale, the units, and the physical length. Clicking Finish brings the image in, and here you can see I now have a new reference photomicrographs for my sample. Now I'm going to batch import reference micrographs. So I have two reference micrographs. So I have my two images I'd like to bring in as reference photomicrographs. I'm going to click Next and Import. So this process is a lot shorter. You choose the images, plural, and bring them in at the same time. It will load them into your StraboMicro project. You can see them here in your file project navigation pane, but you have a little notice the scale has not been set. So when you click the image, it will prompt you to set the scale for your reference micrograph. In this case, both of them have scale bars, so I am going to be using the trace scale bar method, which is the same as previously shown. So now I'm going to show you how to bring in associated photomicrographs. So first, I'm going to do the associated one. I'm going to locate by scaled rectangle. So for this, the associated micrograph inherits the scale originally set by the reference photomicrograph. So it's important to have scale bars on your images, specifically your reference photomicrograph images. The associated micrographs can be located and scaled 3 different ways, and I will show you all 3. Locate on a scaled rectangle, locate by approximate point, and 3-point registration, which is used for, say, EBSD, where your samples are on a 70-degree tilt, and you need the slight stretch of the image to be recalibrated to the original image. I'm going to show you the 3-point registration process with this image. It's where you click 3 corresponding features to compute a precise alignment. And StraboMicro will do the calculations and stretching as needed. So to start this process, first we add a point to our reference image. So I can see that point here. That corresponds with this little inclusion over here. Now we click a second point. Let's do the tail end of this inclusion on the left equals the tail end of the inclusion on the right. This is again the associated image that we're stretching to fit on top of the reference. And now the third, we'll do the far right point of the T-shape inclusion. Far right point of the T-shape inclusion. So now we have our 3 points, and we're going to click Apply. It's going to overlay and stretch the image to fit. So here you can see, if we zoom in, our image has been added to the reference. Again, this says reference at the top, reference photomicrograph, and this is the associated photomicrograph that lives sort of within the frame of the reference micrograph. And you can see here, if I hide the outline and show and hide the image, it's a pretty good approximation. We have some resolution limitations, but it's a pretty good approximation of the location. And now I can click this to view the higher resolution image of this inclusion within my sample, or back out to my larger reference photomicrograph. Now I'm going to show you how to batch import associated micrographs. So first, again, I'll select my images that I'd like to bring in. This will bring both images, or as many images in as you select at the same time, and then require you to orient and scale the images after bringing them in, after loading them into your project in StraboMicro. So you have the warning, but the 2 images have been loaded into your project navigation pane on the left-hand side. So when I click the image, I again am prompted to set the scale and the position of the associated micrograph on its parent image, or the reference micrograph image. For this micrograph, we are going to locate as a scaled rectangle using the stretch and drag method. So I finished orienting and scaling my associated micrograph on my reference photomicrograph. And one of the final tricks is to slide the transparency from 0 to 100 and confirm that your underlying image matches your overlying image, or your reference photomicrograph matches your associated photomicrograph Obviously, there's a little bit of fluctuation. We do have a resolution sort of constraint with the lower resolution of the larger image underneath and the higher resolution of the associated micrograph on top. But it looks pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and click Save. And now our image has been added in. Again, I can click to see the full resolution of the associated micrograph that I brought in, or on the main reference micrograph page, you can see where your associated micrographs are located on your original parent image. For the twin offset image, I am going to use the locate by an approximate point method. So clicking that, I know I'm going to trace the scale bar on the image. So first up, the scale bar I can see here. Click, drag. That is 500 microns. And to add a point at where it is generally located, I can see I have my fracture plane crossing both images, both my associated and my reference photomicrograph. It's generally somewhere in this region, generally somewhere here. I don't have the proper polarization matching for both images to make this association very easy to place, so I'm going to just leave the image, click the point tool, and click here on the reference photomicrograph. So it's going to locate this image by an approximate point at that location that I have assigned. Again, at the top you can see sort of the three-step process: locating, scaling, and then positioning. I click Save, and now on my reference photomicrograph I have a point here that represents this image. When I select the point, it will open the image associated at that location. That wraps up today's tutorial on micrographs in StraboMicro. A quick recap of everything we've covered. We did a review of what a reference micrograph is versus an associated micrograph, ways to upload a single micrograph or batch import micrographs, and that's available for both reference and associated micrographs. And then we walk through the 3 different ways that you can locate and orient an associated micrograph with 3-point registration, locate on a spot, or locate with a scaled rectangle.